All right, so today I'm going to be telling you all about my app called Slicer. Slicer helps you buy items with friends, and then it helps you share the items through dynamic terms once you've made the purchase. So let me start by telling you about the market. So globally, the toy and gift market is an $87 billion market. In the US, it is a $25 billion market, which means that in the US, an average of $338 are spent on every child annually. So let me tell you a little story. This is how I was inspired to start Slicer. A few years ago, I was walking down Ventura Boulevard with my family, as we often do, and I happened to look through the window of a toy store. And bam, there it was. The DJI Phantom 4 Pro drone with obstacle avoidance, GPS flight paths, and a 3-mile battery life. I wanted nothing more than I wanted that drone. As I sat there drooling over that drone, my eyes wandered down to the price tag. $1,500. How was a kid like me, who earlier that day was thrilled to find a mere quarter on the floor, supposed to afford a $1,500 drone? The answer is there was no way. But I also know that the second I bought the drone, I would have invited all of my friends over to try it out. We would have been taking turns in my backyard flying it, and a few weeks later, I'd probably get tired of it, and I would spend a lot of time collecting dust in my garage. So what I could have done instead is I could have shared it with one of my friends. I could have split the cost, and we still would have shared it afterward. And I would have that drone today. So let me tell you how Slicer works. You start by finding a friend. As you can see here, all of the users are given ratings based on how they share. Do they follow their agreements, and are they trustworthy? So it can help you find the perfect person to share with. So once you find the right people, you split the cost of the item. You can see here it is split evenly 3 ways. Then you go to the terms. This is where you decide what % of the time each person will use the item. So again, it's split evenly. And now once you've created a bunch of agreements, you can go to this screen. We see this user gets to use his items an average of 45% of the time. But uh-oh, there's an alert. Let's check it out. So it looks like in this agreement, our user, Mike, is only getting the drone 45% of the time. But the agreement says he should be getting it 60% of the time. Now, he has 2 options. The first, he can notify his friend Jake, and Slicer will send him a notification saying, hey, it's time to give the drone over to Mike, or they can initiate a handoff. The handoff function is very useful. You attach a QR code to whatever the item is, and whenever you pass it off to the next user, you scan the QR code, and the app starts to track who's using it. So we do have some competition, but don't worry. They're either very transactional, meaning you put in the numbers, you pay your friends, and you're done. There's nothing social about it. Or it's very restrictive, and you can only share meals or Ubers, nothing very exciting, which leaves a perfect gap for Slicer. So let me tell you what specifically makes Slicer stand out. First, you can invite your friends. As I said, if I got that drone, the first thing I would have done is invite my friends over. And you can do just that with Slicer. Next, we have the rankings. This makes sure that users have a safe and trustworthy experience when they use the app. We also have dynamic terms. This is what sets us apart most from our competition. People have unpredictable schedules. They can't commit to using an item once every other week or every other month. They might have a trip to Hawaii and they want to take their drone to film some cool videos, and they want to call their friend up that day and say, hey, can I use it? And with dynamic terms, they can. Next, we will get links from distributors. Once we start to get some more traction and we partner with the distributors, we can have them link directly to our app so that we'll get many more users. Lastly, this is something that none of our competition lets you do. We let you share items you already own. You can If you already have an item that you're sharing with someone and you want to put the terms in writing, for a small fee, you can do so. Or if you own something and you're finding that it's sitting in your garage collecting dust, but you still want the chance to use it, you can sell half of it to a friend, and we will take a small commission of that. So let me tell you about the value for each of our segments. First, we've got the kids, or we'll shortly be adding college students. They get to buy what they want. With limited budgets, kids can't buy a lot of things. But when they only have to pay half of the price for items, they can buy a whole lot more. Next, they have the dynamic terms. I talked about that before, but it's great for their schedules. And no awkward conversations. That's a big one. When you share with someone and you don't have everything in writing, you can have very awkward conversations when they violate your agreement. So Slicer eliminates that by sending them notifications automatically. We also have user ratings, and you can invite your friends. For the parents, there's huge value here. I'm sure all of you parents out there have experienced the argument from your kids when they're yelling about whose turn it is. Never again. With Slicer, it's all in writing, so you'll never hear arguing from your kids about whose turn it is. Also, you can buy fewer presents for your kids. When they can buy things for themselves, they won't be there asking you for it, so you can spend less money. The distributors also get huge value. They get a larger market and more purchases, because kids like me who didn't go and buy that drone can now go and buy it. So they'll get twice as many sales, plus it takes at least 2 users per purchase. And they'll also get fewer returns, because it would require that both or all of the people in the agreement agree about returning it. So let me tell you about the unit economics. This is a $25 billion market, as I said, and we can get an average of a 4.5% commission, which gives us a potential revenue of $1.3 billion annually. From our market research, we found that children are willing to spend an average of $463 on themselves every year, another 4.5% commission, and we make a little over $20 per user, but you can easily double that because each transaction requires at least 2 users. But we have some traction already. We have over $300,000 in signed term sheets, and we have facilitated over $35,000 in transactions. But we're not stopping there. We're going to grow quite a bit, because by the end of next month, we will launch our app. That will allow us to double or even triple the transactions that we already have. Then in June, we will release the dynamic terms feature. In July, we will release in-app purchases that allow users to buy directly from our app without having to go to external sites. In August, we will release barcodes that will allow users to scan barcodes at stores so they don't have to go to websites or our app. But that's not all. We've started by marketing to children, as I said, but after some initial success, we decided to expand, and we also started marketing to college students. In the near future, we will expand further by marketing to adults. They will share things like boats or planes or more expensive things like that. Then we'll move on to even bigger investments like properties and businesses, huge things. The future is very exciting. So that's Slicer. I encourage you to check out our website, slicerapp.com, and you can feel free to see our demo in Startup Alley later. I hope that we can help you buy the things you love by allowing you to split the cost with your friends. Thank you very much.
I guess now I'll just open to Q&A.
All right.
Hey, Josh. I think we met last year for your last endeavor.
I think so, yeah.
Congratulations. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Your presentation sometimes is better than probably half of the presentation here from other entrepreneurs as well. So one of the things I mean, there's a few things I thought about is what is your, in terms of monetization, you're focusing originally on children and they don't have credit cards, they don't have account. How do you protect privacy for children, parents being able to purchase and then translating that into a shared economy with, let's say, the drone that you wanted to buy? I mean, your parents, or the parent has to buy that, most likely, for $1,500 before you can go out and engage that.
Yeah, so great question. The parent is actually, in a sense, a part of the transaction as well. The students will, or the kids will, I guess one kid can pick a parent who's gonna pay, and then the two kids can reimburse the parent for the transaction, and it'll mostly work that way.
So my suggestion is maybe put in an allocation for, every week they get money from their parents' savings account, tying that into this app as well so that it becomes a Venmo for themselves, their own little pocket savings account.
Thank you.
Yeah, great presentation, really, really polished. Can you speak a bit about your acquisition strategy? Like how are you going to get people onboarded into the app?
So the good thing is since every transaction requires at least 2 users, every user we have will be looking for more users to share with. So that'll be a really great way. We can also do some marketing later on. But again, it's mostly just people who want to buy things and finding friends to buy it with them.
Thank you. Really, really great preparation. Could you please tell a little bit more about the process of transferring the item? When I want to transfer the item to you, you show the QR code scanning. Could you just describe a little bit more in detail this process?
Sure. So typically this would be sharing with friends just because it's easier to go find them and the people it's more comfortable. So you would get a QR code from the app that you can print out and stick on the item, and then you just give it to the other person and they scan it to say that they have it, and then the app starts tracking their possession of the item at that time.
Have you thought of, or do you have like more simplified process maybe? Because an example maybe just like double confirmation from both sides. One sending that it's transferring, another accepting, or something like this. Because like printing the snap codes is also a little bit not easy process to do if you want to do some quick transactions. In example, items that you own on a daily basis, you may not have just printer on your hand.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Thank you.
So maybe just in terms of something to think about is what happens if someone damages the item? What is the recourse for that for the other 2 or 3 parties that are involved in this transaction?
Great question. We actually have templates that we provide to users. There are certain parts that they can edit, and they come to that agreement on their own. Maybe whoever breaks it will be completely responsible, or they might be responsible to completely replace it, or just to repair it. It depends on their agreement.
And I think it could be utilized deployment, going to market strategy, not only just for kids and consumer, but really going actually to the enterprises, to small business, to these toy stores, to actually establish these accounts for the kids or the groups of kids or parties, so that it makes it easier, so you actually have a subscription model with the businesses itself and rather just the consumers.
Have you spoken to retailers to get their input on whether they find this attractive? Because in some sense, they'll be selling fewer things, right? Like they could sell 2 drones to 2 kids, but you're asking them to sell 1 drone to 2 kids. So what's the reception been if you've sort of gone out into the market and spoken to retailers?
I have not gone and spoken to many retailers, but I will definitely go do that in the near future. But I do think that that people will buy more expensive things and more often. Like my drone story, I don't have the drone now, but I think if I had the opportunity to only pay half the price, I would. So I think in that sense, they'll probably get more sales.
You have this like amazing roadmap with extension to the adults, more complex partnerships, and so on. So how you see the near future execution? Are you want to finish with children, jump to students, jump to adults, or you want to kind of grow big in the children, then grow big in students, and then grow big in adults? So basically, is it going to be like extensive or intensive?
Well, the main reason for starting with students is just because I'm a student, so it's a lot easier to market to students. But I have an interesting story, actually. The other day, someone came up to me, and I told them about my app, and they asked about sharing an entire airplane, probably several $1 million. They wanted to sell half of it to someone else so they could share it. So I don't think I don't think it will require much work to spread. So it's just about establishing some credibility with kids before we move on to the next level.
The reason why I'm asking this is because this is a really huge market and many directions how you could evolve your application. So one thing you need to learn is to say no to many things that is been said to you and have your vision of this. Because you will get too many requests for many things, what could be shared, how it could be improved, what else could be added, right? And just have evolve this product as you see it, and always keep in mind that it will be huge, millions of opportunities. You need to find like 1% and get rid of 99.
Thank you, I appreciate that advice.
No, I just figured I should have thought of this layaway product myself when I was younger. That's incredible, so good job.
Thank you.